there, welcome back to our show. Today I'm going to talk about Possession, which is a film by, and watch me butcher the name of the director, Andrzej Żuławski. You know, you knew it was going to happen, I was going to butcher it. Now, Possession is a film I've had forever and not watched. I mean, it stars Sam Neill and Isabella Adjani, and Adjani. And I've no excuse for not watching. I've heard it's brilliant. I've just avoided it like the plague because it looked really intense. I was never in the mood for it. But last week I was finally in the mood for it, so I watched it. And it is excellent. It's a terrific film. I've avoided reading too much about it since watching it, so I don't just parrot stuff that's already been done. I do know it was based on the director's divorce from his wife. And then after he crossed Aaron Curtin, this is the film he made after he'd crossed over from the east to west. So he had international stars. So there's always other films before that were all behind Iron Curtain and, you know, subject to a lot of censorship. But that's as far as I know about his films, really. I'm interested. I've got Cosmos as well, which is his last film he made before he died. I need to watch that. But Possession is excellent. Possession is really good. But it's one of those films that it's not for everybody. It's really intense. It does not care if you're, sensitive. It will pretty much shock you. It takes the idea that Cronenberg did with The Brood, which is a film that got compared to a lot, where it's about a divorce. It's about the traumatic aspects of the divorce. And and instead of having the divorced parents being, nice and sweet and doing the best for the children, they behave like lunatics and they're jealous and they're more into their own psychodrama than they actually are into helping deal with the kid. The kid's tossed around back and forward as part of their games with each other. It's one of those things, poor kid. It's just like, he has no hope. So you have doppelgangers, you've got crazy monsters. You can see its influence in a lot of films. I mean, it takes the idea of a monster, like a creature from your subconscious coming alive, and just does it within the collapse of a marriage. I mean, The Brood was about the divorce itself and custody of the kid almost. It was really about how to fight for the kid. Well, this one is, like I said, the kid doesn't really matter so much as about their psychodrama with each other and what they expect from each other and how they don't really listen to each other that much. They've got their own weird fascination with the other person that it's only partially to do with what the other person is, and it's a lot to do with what their psychodrama actually is. So this is a film where the actors kind of give it their all and they're, uncaring about the reaction they're going to get, because it's like they're just going for it. They're just going for it in a way that you don't see very often. I mean, Sam Neill, after he made it, or years later, I think, said he put a lot into it, and he's not sure he'd ever do that again. He would never go quite as far as that again, because he is playing the cucked husband, which he played a lot in the 80s and 90s. He was like him and Charles Dance were like, if you wanted somebody to play a husband whose wife was unfaithful, if playing secondly to a strong actress, it was Charles Dance or Sam Neill. Both of them got those parts, which, because they could do it, basically. It's like, a lot of actors have been given that part, they'll get uncomfortable. The actors didn't, so they did those parts for a while. Then they moved on to do their own thing. Like, Charles Dance became a massive villain in films and really seemed to enjoy himself playing the villain. And Sam Neill became the guy who was in Jurassic Park and who just started making like eccentric films mixed in with some studio films. He would just follow his own music. So you get some really cool stuff like The Mouth of Madness, mixed with a studio film like Event Horizon. And then he'd go off and do some weird film in New Zealand. Then he'd go and do something else Like, his career's all over the place. We do stuff in TV. You know, if you look at his career, it really is all over the place. But he's been consistently working for decades, so it's probably a good policy. Once he got beyond the cucked husband part in the 80s, he seemed to go and do his own thing. Adjani was the goddess of French cinema for the 70s and early 80s, and then from then on, obviously actresses have a harder time really getting parts, but she's always kept a good career going, and she's always had a very respectable career. But this is her going all out. This film was made not long after Nosferatu, which is another horror-themed film where she's dealing with a monster, so she never seemed to have much problems doing the horror films. But like Nosferatu, it's a horror film made by an auteur who's not interested in just doing like slasher stuff. And if someone's going to die, they're going to die in interesting, bizarre ways that gives the actors lots to do and lots of weird emotions. Because the monster does feel like a metaphor for their angst and weirdness. And the whole film is about how strange and how insular people can be, and how they don't pay that much attention. Ultimately, they're into what they're into. You have two characters here into what they're into. That's it. The other characters come and go. You know, they can even have relations with other people, but they don't really care about them. They're just like, this will pass the time while I'm waiting for the next thing of what I'm really into. And it's about these two characters who are really into not just each other, but almost like torturing each other. They really are into like both telling each other the flaws and also enjoying watching them suffer. You know, they really do enjoy watching each other suffer. It is a black comedy in lots of ways. I mean, you could watch this in The Shining back to back, and you'd get over the top performances, weird horror, and lots of like family melodrama that's both funny but also a bit disturbing because they really go for it and they don't really care about upsetting people. So I mean, the plot basically is Sam Neill is a spy who comes back to his wife, finds that they're not having a sexual relationship at all, finds that she's been having an affair. He gets jealous and he goes completely insane. This is the first sign that this film's not going to follow conventional routes. Instead of just being slightly upset about it, he goes into full-on meltdown. When she leaves him, he destroys a whole cafe in a absolute orgy of violence. I mean, this film does not mind having him slap her. And it doesn't mind having her seem to having weird reactions to it as well. I mean, Adjani's character does have a masochistic streak. A mile wide. It's weird. It's just a wonderfully weird thing. I mean, this is also a film that obviously influenced Hellraiser. There's just lots of weirdness, and it's all about how crazy this woman can be and how nuts she is, but also how understandable it is. It's just someone trying to make connections in life and have instincts in life that are not polite. And so what do you do with them when you're kind of bored with other people, when you're bored with what you're meant to be doing, and there's only a few people you can really connect with, which in this case is Sam Neill's character and her. They connect, but they only kind of half connect. It's like they have enough things in common to really bite each other, but they don't understand each other that well. It's just that the kind of surface attraction, the surface, their weirdness kind of meshes well, but they're still not really figuring out the other person. You know, it's much more like whatever is going wrong with the one person is exciting another person. They go back and forward. There's another character who's a first affair she has, who's this vain, stupid guy. He's this European guy who is really pretentious. It's a fun character because Sam Neill's character just cannot stand him. And watching Sam Neill in this one, not really stand certain people, it's hilarious. Because if you've seen some of his other films he's made over the years, one of the best films of Sam Neill you can get a film is him being a grumpy sod. It's him hating people. Because it's always funny because he's very good at sarcasm. And this is full blown here. You weren't going to see the same level of pure nastiness from him until like in The Mouth of Madness years later. And then it's sort of directors got the idea that this is what you should give him. This is much more fun. So instead of being nice, he's big and nasty. So some of the stuff they have, the back and forth there, because both of them feel that Adjani's left them for a person. It turns out she's left both of them for something else. Now I think something else is this tentacled weird creature that could have come from her subconscious, could have not. It's weird, so you're never quite sure, is it reality or is it just her fantasies? But she's killing people, and people seem to be seeing things, so the film treats it as happening. And why not? It's the film. One of the wonderful things about the film is a joy not caring about respectable reality in actions of characters or in genre. It's like, yeah, in a normal film, this would just be our imagination, but let's not go there. Let's have some more fun with this, and let's have it real or potentially real. It's a thing, sort of thing that Shining did as well, where you so much of it you can say that's an imagination. And then at some point it's much more ambiguous, is it or is it not? And it doesn't try and answer any of the questions. It's like, let you work it out. I mean, there's some stuff at the end which I'm not going to go to that is just all out weird and hard to decipher, but it feels like it makes sense. So even though you're not be able to follow it logically, it feels right for the film. So it's like, well, you just have to watch the film a few times and try and work it out, or your version of what it's about. I mean, it's like it can be read basically as them getting through the psychoses, or it can be read as them learning to put up a good facade, and having a child realising how horrific that is, or it could be lots of things. It could be mutations, it could be weird evolutionary things, it could be anything. You can choose, which is another reason why I don't want to talk about it too much. Is like, you have to see it to believe to get it, and you can have various interpretations of it. And you have various interpretations of the relationship as well. Depends on what you're bringing to it. I mean, if you're like a woman or a guy who thinks only their gender is right in these kind of cases, you're going to get a warped view, because the characters are weird enough. You know, I mean, the film is pretty much how both sides are kind of strange. So even though it came from the director's divorce, he's not picking sides. Sam Neill's character does horrible things, especially early on. Later on, he looks after the child a lot more than Adjani does. And he's trying his best, but you can tell the beast's just lurking there below the surface, is waiting to get loose. You know. So it's like, and when Adjani's with the kid as well, it's almost like being polite before you can see the monster below. And Adjani plays a school teacher as well, who Neill has an affair with. And the wicked creature turns into something that looks like Sam Neill. So it's almost like them recreating each other as the ideal version for their fantasies, but it's not quite right either, and it's weird, and is it like trying to destroy all the interesting parts of themselves, or they're trying to be polite, or is it just a sign of madness? Who knows? It's like it's something you have to interpret for yourself. Again, another reason why I don't get into too much. But mainly, I mean, the first hour is pretty much a marriage thing, played by actors who are reacting in a way that is impolite, but it's probably closer to what people actually do when they're breaking up than the polite thing. It's a sense of why people feel betrayed so much when they're broken up, and why they can behave so irrationally. Because it's all to do with their own psychodramas being hurt, and it's like they need a way to express it in ways they don't quite understand. And that's what's good about the film, in the sense is that having this weird fantasy horror thing is like, it's almost an expression of their subconscious floating through, uncontrollable. So it's not really about the genre, it's just about expressing what's there below the surface that you can't get in polite conversations. So there's a lot of interesting weird things in this film. But it's definitely one to see. I mean, it's one of those ones where I'm not sure you can do that much justice to it. It has to be experienced. It's just there's something like primal about it. So it's something you really have to see, because it is wonderful. But I'm not sure if I've worked all out yet, because I've only seen it once, and it's like, It really is something. It's one of those films that I have been putting off for a long time because I kind of knew it was in for. I'd seen a couple of descriptions of it, like how strange it is, and it's like, it's funny watching this and having seen other things recently, like Men, which was trying to do surreal gender thing, and the Men is quite simplistic compared to this one. This is so much a higher level than something like Men manages to be. You know, for performances, for what's going on below the surface, just for everything. I mean, there's an amazing sequence halfway through where you see Adjani go mental in a subway area, and she's carrying a bag full of his milk and she's smashing it against a wall, and it's just weird and wonderful to watch an actress go this far. And there's a bit when Sam Neill's just after the divorce and he's in a hotel room and he stinks and the whole place stinks and he's just losing his mind. It's like, these actors really put their effort in here. They're not phoning this one in. So this is a wonderful film. Possession's a wonderful film. It's not for everybody, but I think you should really put the effort. And if you want to see some strong stuff, if you want to see like what would happen if Bergman made an over-the-top horror movie, but it's not really a horror movie, you know, it's much more like the Lynch Kubrick thing of it floats between genres and it's not trying to be specific to anything really. So it's definitely recommended. So go see it. So I hope you enjoyed this video. That's me for now. Bye.